Greetings, classmates. Thank you for watching. I know it's week 5 and this is an ungraded speech, but I wanted to practice, and Miss 4 likes us to practice. How many of y'all have seen people running around with deer strapped to their hoods or in the back of their trucks, showing it off to all their friends? It's like some old caveman proclaiming what a great hunter they are because they have killed a deer, where in fact they took a bath in antibacterial soap so they have no smell, washed their clothes in anti-scent detergent, put camouflage clothing on, and hid up 20 feet inside of a deer stand, waited for a deer to come by and ambushed him and shot it and killed it. It doesn't take a lot of skill today to be a hunter. It just basically, you need you, the gun, and the woods, and a deer to walk by. That's what I'd like to talk to you today about, is processing deer. I'd like to talk to you about field dressing, which may get a little gross. I'd like to talk to you about skinning it and cooling out the meat. The first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is the field dressing of the deer, or the gutting. Now, once a deer has been shot, you need to wait 5 or 10 minutes so that it has someplace to run off, and it'll die, and it'll die quickly and peacefully most of the time if you've placed your shot well. You need to get out of your stand about 10 minutes and go track the deer and find it. Once you've found it, the first thing you have to do is cut the throat. Cutting the throat allows the blood that is starting to pool in the chest cavity to go out. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes. I usually try to angle them downhill or prop them up on a log so that their head's going down, and let the blood just come on out. Now, the next thing you need to do is get it field dressed or gutted. It's very important. The longer the guts are inside there, the longer the blood has to congel. Coagulate is the medical word for what happens to blood. And you don't want that to happen, because that will taint the meat and make the meat taste wild. Game does not taste wild, people. It just doesn't, if it's processed correctly. So, after you've got the blood come out, then you want to slice the deer from its chin all the way down to the anus. You do not want to stick your knife in deep. You just want to go right underneath the skin, and then at the chest you want to break all the rib bones and the chest plate open, just so that you can pull it apart. But you don't want the knife to go in so far that you're damaging anything inside there. Now you want to castrate it, and then you want to cut in between, spread its legs as far as it can with it on its back, and cut right in between its legs all the way down to the pelvic bone, splitting the pelvic bone so that you can see the bladder. You do not want to break that bladder. That's very bad. Then you want to go to the exit part of the anus, forgive me, and you want to cut it free. Now, you want to take the whole gut sack. You're going to see it in there. God has put the guts in a sack. And all you have to do is move them to the one side and take your knife and run it along the backbone and cut that very thin membrane that's holding it in. Now you do the same thing with the lungs and heart and liver and stuff. Just move it over to one side and cut that membrane. Now grab that esophagus that you've exposed because you've cut it all the way down here. Just trim right behind it. And once it disappears into the chest cavity, you're ready to grab it with both hands with the deer on the side and just pull it, and everything will come out clean. If you're getting bloody all over gutting a deer, you're not doing it right. Your hands will get a little bloody. I keep wet wipes for that, but that's it. Unless you've made a gut shot, then you may have a little bit more mess, and that's another reason to get them field dressed immediately. Now that I've talked to you about field dressing a deer, I want to talk to you about skinning a deer. Skinning a deer is the most important thing there is. It has to be done immediately. These jokers who are riding around showing these deer off to everybody are spoiling meat. If they're out there in the sun, if the temperature is above 35 degrees, the meat is starting to spoil. That is why you hear so many people say, I don't like deer meat. It's so tainty. It tastes so wild. Deer, rabbit, squirrel, none of that stuff has a wild taste to it. The people who are processing it let it partly rotten. You have to get the skin off immediately. It's very simple to do. You see my hand here, if I can get it in front of the camera, you slice it on their front legs just like this all the way to the chest, through the armpit on both sides. You do the same thing on the inside of the legs. Peel both the legs, hind and the back legs first. Hang that deer upside down while it is still warm and flexible. That hide will just peel right off. Piece of cake. It's easy. I can skin a deer in about 5 minutes. Now it's time to quarter it up. But first you got to remove the head. Take the head off of it, and you're ready to cool the meat. Now that I've talked to you about skinning the deer and the importance of skinning the deer, I want to talk to you about cooling out the meat. Yes, I know the old timers used to say, hey, just let that thing hang out there and it'll cool out for you. No, not anymore. We got this thing called global warming. Back when I was a child, in October, it was cold. I was out in the backyard today, and I had on my shorts and I was sitting on the back porch. If it's 35 degrees, it's going to be the high temperature. You can let it hang. If you're not worried about flies getting to it, mice getting to it, birds getting to it, other dogs, cats, all these things are contributing factors. The best thing to do is to quarter that deer up, take its shoulders off, take the back straps off, take the inside back strap off, and yes, there is an inside back strap on deer. Then you want to cut off the neck, because it's got a lot of good stew meat. Then cut off the hams, throw the ribs away unless it's a really big deer and it's got some flank meat, which most deer today don't have a whole lot of flank meat on them. Take it and put it in your bathtub and let it cool out for 24 hours in cold water. Change the water out about every 4 or 5 hours. No, don't have to get up, set your alarm to get up in the middle of the night, change the water. Before you go to bed, change it. When you get up, change it again. After 24 hours, take it out of the water, damp dry it with a towel, wrap it in the towel, and place it in your refrigerator. 48 hours later, you're ready to start cutting up some steaks. Now that I've talked to you about cooling out the meat, let's review what I've talked about. I talked to you about field dressing the deer and getting it done. Why? Because you don't want the blood to coagulate. I've talked to you about getting the skin off it so that the meat don't start getting putrid. And this is with all animals. And I've talked to you about cooling out the meat. If you will field dress your deer immediately, skin your deer immediately, and cool it out properly, you will be enjoying some fine deer steaks. All you need is a frying pan, some biscuits, gravy. That's some good eating. Thank you very much.